these companies offset your trip, but they don't offset your arrival and departure flights, which is the biggest amount of carbon. No one ever talks about it. So once you add that in, it's no longer carbon neutral.
Welcome to Truth Behind Travel podcast. I'm Dolores Semeraro, and this is my weekly show where tourism, travel, and hospitality industry professionals meet to discuss and share marketing strategies as they reshape the future of travel. If you want to learn the truth directly from the leaders and the doers of this industry, you are in the right place. Before you dive into today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. And while you're on it, go on and follow the show on Instagram and Facebook at Truth Behind Travel Podcast. On today's episode, I did not invite only one guest, but three. Welcome to the first group episode of Truth Behind Travel Podcast. And today, I'm speaking to the founders of the Global Collective for Travel, a group of destination management companies dedicated to creating true connections between the travelers and the destination. And the best part is that the local communities who are instrumental in making all this happening are not left behind. For them, sustainability and community tourism are not just buzzwords. They do not want to leave things as they found them. They want to leave things better. On today's podcast, the three founders of the Global Collective for Travelers will discuss the truth behind carbon offsetting, community tourism frameworks, and how does greenwashing really look like so that travelers can learn how to spot it. Join me in welcoming Tuan, Pham, co-founder of the Travel Neutral Hospitality in Vietnam, Çağlar, Gökgün, founder and managing director of SGA Travels in Turkey, and Pravin, Tamang, regenerative and sustainable travel experts from India. Welcome back to the podcast, and welcome you all for the first time. I'm hosting a group recording of the podcast, for which I'm really excited about. And the entire team from the collective is here. I can't wait to introduce you to the work that they do and to introduce you, each one of you, to the audience of the podcast. I know you all have a very special story behind you and a reason, perhaps a common reason that brought you together. So first, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Truth Behind Travel. As an introduction to the audience, would you like to give us a bit of an overview of what brought you together and what made you create the collective?
Hello, Dolores. Çağlar here. I am one of the founding member of Global Collective for Travel, also founder and managing director of SGA Travel based in Istanbul, Turkey. What brought us together is mainly our passion about sustainable tourism and also our passion about introducing our cultures and our countries in the local way and the best way to the travelers. During the pandemic, we were chit-chatting as friends with Pravin and Tuan and trying to find solutions for some global challenges and issues, mainly about sustainability and how local operators can play a big role on finding some solutions to the main challenges. And then we realized that local tour operators could make a big impact on introducing our own countries in a genuine and authentic way, not to use sustainability only as a buzzword or a marketing tool with our local teams and with our local structure here. So I think the passion brought us together, and those long hours during pandemic about finding great solutions, literally.
This is fun, yeah. The only thing I would like to add to that is we, through our previous work, we really wanted to address the equity issue. So what that means is that the local people who do most of the work and who are often overlooked, and we saw how they were literally left behind They were the most impacted. They were left without income. So equity is really something that we wanted to address and challenge.
It's important because, as you said, often the ones who do the work are the ones that are left behind. And we see this we see this approach in many of the community tourism organizations that are now spreading around the world. And in many cases, sustainability and community tourism, they become buzzwords, as you said. And this is something that perhaps during this episode, we want to dive in a little bit, and we want to make sure that we're not just adding noise to these buzzwords, but we want to speak of the work that you're doing, the actions that you're taking across the industry. There is, in many cases, a trend, and it's a negative trend in a way, whereby sustainability and community tourism are words that are treated almost like trophies in communication, in statements, in descriptions of whatever, whatever goal the organization has. And we see this not just in the private sector. Unfortunately, we see it also in the public sector. What are the actions you're taking to prevent sustainability and community tourism to be used just as a buzzword?
Çağlar here. I think the major difference that we are trying to make here is, as local operators, how we are trying to show how genuine we are about sustainability. In Turkey, for example, there are companies which kind of invented the all-inclusive package in accommodation sector, is now marketing sustainability. Like 20 years ago, they invented all-inclusive packages at the hotels, and right now they're talking about sustainability. It clearly shows that a lot of companies are using sustainability only as a marketing tool. As members of Global Collective, we are genuine and taking actions about it. For example, we are, like, these big companies, unfortunately, are not agile enough to manage changes on ground. They set up, let's say, a big project around, let's say carbon offsetting, for example. But as local operators, we know what is going on ground, and we action, and then we try to make a difference on ground about this. There was an unfortunate event in Turkey a couple of months ago. There was a huge earthquake, for example. As a local operator here in Turkey, we were working on different projects with our local NGO, Support to Life, mainly about Syrian refugees and providing education, supporting them about housing and everything. We continue supporting these communities, but at the same time, we mainly focus on projects about earthquake right now. So as local operators, we are able to make changes much quicker instead of like comparing to other big companies who thinks that they are, doing amazing work about sustainability, and, they do great work as well. But we can act very agile, make changes, and then try to focus on different projects.
So it's really keeping it concrete, keeping it real. What you're saying is that there is no need to go out and speak about, abstract, big subjects, is if instead on the ground people need something else. They need a different kind of support. So the key to sustainability is to keep it real, to keep it concrete and in line with the actual needs of the people who are working and really do the job. They are the doers.
Exactly. I think without creating the marketing agenda, we try to act first. And then if we still would like to share about this in our website or, on our LinkedIn page or something like that, to set an example, then that's fine. But we don't first create the marketing agenda. And then after that step, we look at the sustainability topics. And we don't only seek for the hot topic. We seek for the real problem, because we live in this community with our teams from different parts of the country, and then we try to act as quick as possible.
Hi, this is Pravin here. I am from India. I think sustainability, although this podcast is about sustainable tourism, is a widely overused word in a way. And while we were talking about sustainability, I was actually talking to my friend in New Zealand tourism the other day, and he actually said, Pravin, sustainability is overused. There are other ways to look at it from a ground up. There is regenerative travel that is coming up really, really well now. Like, sustainability is, taking things as they are, celebrating that status quo in a way. And I'm sorry, I'm being negative here, but, doing what you can and maintain the status quo. But regenerative is getting over there, immerse yourself, but regenerate something else. So it is left behind for the generations to come. And then we go back to, stage one or stage zero, where everything is nice. It's there because you have actually created or regenerated it for your generation. So although it's a big word, sustainability is a big word that everyone speaks about, but we need to look at it from a very, very different perspective now, and start working towards it on how we are going to input and what are our roles in sustainable development of tourism. So I think this is what I think.
It's important to remember even the word itself, sustain. Sustain means to make sure that whatever you use in today's world and across the resources that you have today allows you to do what you need to do without compromising the resources of those who come after you. And sometimes the most common description you read about sustainability is about the environment, when instead sustainability really encompasses many other areas, the economical, social. And another buzzword that I hear a lot in the industry refers to, as travel involves a lot of transportation, it's carbon offsetting. As we now take to the skies again and we travel, we're reading all these encouraging statistics from UNWTO, from Expedia, from all the from Deloitte. We're reading that perhaps in a way that they are kind of spreading the good vibes, and they're managing to share good statistics of good numbers of people, increasing number of people traveling. More people traveling means also more people are moving from point A to point B. And whether they travel by land, by sea, or by air, it is inevitable that with that comes a level of carbon emissions. In terms of carbon offsetting, the description and the way people go about it, and the organizations talk about it, remains a little bit of a gray area. Where do you see across the industry, as you work with so many members of the collective, where do you see concrete actions taken?
This is Tuan. I'll take this question. But this is a really difficult question. And the carbon offsetting, it gives the traveller a guilt-free way to enjoy their holiday. So over the 2 years, air travel stopped. And what do we see? Carbon emission went down. So everyone talks about a carbon offset. So they buy these carbon credits with different companies. Not many people can actually really understand the whole complexity of carbon offsetting. So where is it being offset? Who is doing the accreditation? Is it trustworthy? There are so many accreditation bodies out there. You have to look at all these very complex things to ensure that your carbon offset actually works. Is investing, buying carbon credits with a forest blocking corporation. They replant trees, right? So they're actually creating carbon credits. So is buying carbon credits with these people actually offsetting carbon? If tour companies talk about, we're offsetting your carbon, your entire trip, we're carbon neutral, we aspire to become carbon positive, so they can sink carbons, right? Wonderful. And these are wonderful stuff, and I'm not going to dismiss it if they're actually doing it. But 1 minute they're talking about that, and the next minute they're promoting a quick 10-day getaway that involves 2 or 3 domestic flights that less than 1.5 hour duration. They're taking you to the most exploited mass tourist areas, putting you in hotels that are run and owned by really ethically questionable people, then I would start questioning their whole carbon credit credential. Those things are never addressed. Going back to carbon credit, the other thing that we always find funny about carbon credit is that these companies offset your trip, but they don't offset your arrival and departure flights, which is the biggest amount of carbon creation. We're talking about 1.5 to 3 tons of carbon, depending on where you're going to. No one ever talks about it. So once you add that in, it's no longer carbon neutral. We care about it. I mean, these are complex issues. We care about becoming carbon neutral as much as we are able to. In Vietnam, we're committing to planting trees. We're committing 5% of our revenue to forest regeneration projects in Vietnam, not somewhere obscure that is, replanting trees after they've actually swapped it. We physically go out and plant these trees. So we don't go around boasting about it, but this whole thing raises a lot of questions that people don't want to answer, and so it remains obscure. And that's my roundabout answer to a very complex issue.
One of the points you raised before the recording, Tuan, it was very. It actually got me thinking about a lot of the travels that everyone undertakes every day, and whether it's for business or for pleasure. A lot of the carbon offsetting claims and bragging that the industry does, whether it happens or not, it's questionable. But in many cases, it doesn't happen and it doesn't relate to the place where you're going. It happens somewhere else. So these are practices that also remain a bit of a gray area to describe and to talk about in the industry, where, for example, if I am flying from France to Iceland, for example, and of course it's a long flight, but there is a carbon offsetting strategy behind it from the airlines, perhaps, or from the company that I'm buying my holiday from. That carbon offsetting does not happen in France and does not happen in Iceland. It happens somewhere else in the world. What are your views about this?
People don't know where the carbon offsets actually, well, even if it does actually happen. There are very good people doing amazing work, and we should recognize that. But it's never clear where the offset is taking place. No, we don't know that. Even the people who actually buy the offsets for you, they don't know. I mean, the carbon traders don't know where it's happening. There are projects in Vietnam that claims to gain offset credits, so they build these great, wonderful solar farms and wind farms. And I'm not sure if you can actually choose where your offset is. It would be wonderful if you say, I really want my offset to happen in, it's not through wind farms where I want it to be. I'm not sure there's a mechanism in place to do that. All these things becoming buzzwords. While we've been quite negative about it, I do want to cast a positive light on it, is that it becomes a buzzword because people care. Going back 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't a buzzword because no one cared. But so many of us care now that it becomes a buzzword. The issue that we want to highlight is not it becoming buzzwords as a whole. It's how the industry is actually tackling it.
If something becomes a buzzword, the care aspect of it does not match the action being taken. So a lot of people can care about, therefore companies are on the case and they feed on it. Like, okay, our clients, our travelers, they care about sustainability. Okay, let's talk about sustainability because people care. When does it become a buzzword as opposed to something that actually happens in the industry? When the action taken do not match the level of care of people. And it's true, there are some who says that travelers today are making conscious choices and they are more conscious and more aware of what they choose, where to spend their money, their holiday money. And others instead, they say that travelers just want to have it easy. It's not the responsibility of the travelers to make conscious choices. It's the responsibility of the operators to offer conscious product to begin with. So we are, halfway through discussing where do we need to take most of the actions? What can we do to help either one side or the other? And because in many cases, private and public operators are jumping on the buzzword, they create what is called greenwashing. So if greenwashing is happening as we speak, we see it happening as operators, how can we make sure that travelers see it and recognize it when they are about to travel, or when they are about to make their travel choices?
Çağlar here. I think there are a couple of points that they can realize straight away. The first one is they can check their Twitter if there's a trending topic, and if a global company talks about how they can tackle, that issue, or how they are active about that topic, and that's mainly greenwashing, because as I mentioned on my previous part, unfortunately trends are directing or driving the sustainability projects. So that's the first tip that I would give to them. And the other thing is, they can also feel from if they're already on ground, they can also feel from the local team. Like if local teams don't buy it, they will recognize it straight away. In a lot of greenwashing examples, yes, companies act global, but the local part is missing. So this is where I see the biggest challenge, I think, and where we can make a big difference.
So talking about local communities, a lot of the work that is being developed by many operators, for example, in sustainable tourism, in adventure tourism, any type of tourism form that is developed around the existence of local communities, is now becoming more and more en vogue, so to speak. And I just had this conversation a few days ago with an adventure travel operator saying, how do you involve local communities in the work that you do developing, for example, biking trails or hiking trails across very rural areas? Because it's not just about making sure that they have a part in the development of the tourism development of their area, but it's also, what do you do to protect them? Because they get influenced by what they see from the outside, their mindset changes, their heart changes, the way they come across changes. And so suddenly community tourism becomes a puppet show of what the real culture of that place, what that really is. And we don't want that to happen. So it's not about just developing community tourism, but it's also about how to protect the local communities so that they continue to deliver our authentic experiences, not staged experiences to travelers. There's a lot being done, but again, this is what I would call a holistic approach. Where do you see the right framework in place to really approach community tourism from a holistic point of view?
Hi, this is Pravin. I think the point that you actually made across in terms of, a lot of travel agents, a lot of travel companies are now selling, or putting community experiences or community tourism experiences on their products, which is great. It goes back to, again, a lot of things happening, a lot of things selling, the PR stunts and everything. What all of us need to understand, particularly, and it's very important to understand, is the community has to be the center of a design in terms of what we are developing as a product. And then only we can actually start to even think about community tourism. So what is happening at the moment on a larger scale is a lot of just like a word called sustainability, people are actually jumping into their product design and putting community tourism as a USP. So I think to avoid that trap from a consumer perspective, and from a very holistic perspective is, need to understand the product. Are we really working with the community themselves, or are we just staging it? So, just to avoid that trap, we need to find out if the community is the center of that product design process. So we need to look at it from the perspective of a community as a nucleus of it, and all the three other factors like NGO for their research and development, and for their study, public sector for their funding, and private sector for sustaining that entire thing. Because private sector as travel companies, they are going to be the sustainers of this product. They are going to go and sell it. So I think from a holistic perspective, it is also about not forgetting what the consumer wants. So whenever we are doing something or initiating something, what we forget is, okay, now the 3 or 4 factors are already there. The public sector, private sector, and the community is already there, along with the NGOs. But we tend to forget the customer part of it. It's the consumer who's going to consume that product, and is the consumer actually getting the benefit of what they actually want? Like the word says, holistic. Holistic is not about just staging let's say, a dance performance by a community. It is easy to actually go to a village or go to a community, and they can do a dance for a fee, for a small fee. But is the community and the members of the community actually involved in it on that entire process? And when the consumer comes out of that particular product cycle, was that immersive enough for them? Like, it's not only about those cultural shows or cultural dance shows. Is it about the guide? Are we actually training and developing the guides that comes out of that community? If we are doing a mountain biking or a walking experience, is one of the members or a member of the community has a part in designing that entire product, and are they the part of that product in executing that product, like guides, or like facilitators? So from that for me is holistic. Then comes the related parties on, how are we going to formulate a policy? Who else are, involved in designing a policy framework for this? Like, community would be, and most of the time there are smart people on top, and then the community falls right below the chain, and we need to be involving the community members on formulating these policies, what is good for them, what they regard, as a good indicator of a product, and involving them and engaging them actively becomes very, very important. And then the rest of the other things like private sector, public sector, and the NGO sectors come right behind, giving them that support to actually rise up. So I think that for me is a holistic community tourism.
Amongst your members, where do you see this holistic approach happening the most?
So we have a great opportunity in, I can talk about my example a bit later, but Vietnam is great. Turkey is great, because I think we are in the cusp of this. We are not highly developed countries. We are developing countries, and this is where the authentic experiences are still there. It's just that we need to find it, and we need to actually create a community around it and create product out of that. So the opportunities are endless. In India, I work with the local government over here. I advise them on the approach to sustainable tourism and how we involve communities. And we have endless opportunities. It's just that communities are ready here in India, or parts of India where I am from. It's just that we need a framework on how to go about it. And we just don't want to jump into the conclusion saying, hey, we are developing this, we are going to include, five homestay owners or hosts, and that is how we're going to go about it. No, we're going to go about it in terms of, we're going to just have a meeting that is going to be facilitated by the NGOs, because they have already worked in those communities. And we're going to slowly introduce tourism and say, hey, this is financially, operationally suitable for you, and we will let you be what you are, and you should be authentic in delivering what the service is. And then comes the tourism, and then we ask for the help of the public sector, like the government, and then we go about it. I think that is the process that we are following right now.
Çağlar here. For example, in Turkey, we have a different approach about mainly finding unique and sustainable experiences within the country through our tour guides, tour leaders. And for example, in Turkey, all our tour guides are bachelor degree travel professionals. So these guys, and like most of them, are working 12 months for our company. And then as a tour operator, we provide them Travel Life individual travel professional certification opportunity where they can, during the off season, because it's a very seasonal business here, which takes around 3 months, that they can travel around the country, find the most unique and sustainable opportunities that we can create an activity or a community-based tourism example around it.
The difference that I noticed over the years, especially in the hospitality industry, is that we want to bring, is that hospitality industry operators, hoteliers, or those who design experiences for the hotel guest, they seek authentic experiences approach, this kind of approach, and they go and look for what could resemble a local activity that we can package and polish and present it to our hotel guests, particularly when we're talking about 4 stars or 5 stars approach, mostly 5-star and luxury approach. They take these authentic experiences, they polish them up, they make them perfect, and they present them to the hotel guests as if they are local experiences. Well, guess what? These experiences do not need to be perfect. In fact, they don't have to be perfect. When they are that perfect, that means they are staged. So when you go and scout all these little activities that are happening every day in the communities, and I think that more and more travelers are interested in what's not perfect, the true meaning of the word authentic. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be real. When you look into the local community, the community tourism approach, and how to unfold authentic experiences for travelers, let's not pursue perfection. Let's encourage operators to be as real as possible, because travelers are looking into this thing. That kind of brings me to another point of this conversation, which for me is important and I feel quite strongly about, and that's equality, especially when it comes to gender and representations across the industry. But when it comes to empowering tourism operator, we want to make sure that everyone has a fair representation and a fair opportunities. Although these are challenges, and we see this as some get more opportunities than others. Where do you see these challenges happening?
Hi, Pravin here again. When we talk about equality, interestingly, globally tourism is a female-dominated sector. So 54 to 55% of the entire population is gender is in tourism is female.
54%. I wouldn't call it a domination, but
yeah. But then if you look at it from the perspective, yeah, you can say that. But when we come across this number, what we do not understand, that this is my point, is there is equality in terms of the numbers, like this is the ratio between genders. But there is also this equity problem. Are they getting fair price for their contribution in hospitality? Like speaking about hospitality as well, 60 to 70% hospitality workforce are women. But we have to understand where those workforce are currently employed. They're not on the higher level of management. So this is where equity comes into being. And tourism as a sector, because, hospitality, hotel industry, travel industry, we are all into, and even the community tourism, we are all stakeholders now. And we need to really look at it from a rounded perspective in terms of how we are engaging the women or the other gender. So unless and until you challenge that, how are we going to come out of this bubble? So this entire thing actually cropped out from that. But then I think what needs to happen is to actually, the businesses who are looking into this as a serious agenda, as a serious topic, needs to look at it from ground up, from level 0, and then climb up slowly. Not just okay, we wanna do this. That's the reason why we're gonna aggressively pursue this. You can also be a part of this development and part of this process by collaborating with other female associations. Like right now, what I do is I actually collaborate in Jaipur. There is a tricycle or a rickshaw company, privately NGO, that is actually empowering this woman to actually be riders or drivers of these rickshaws, okay? Electric rickshaws. So environmentally friendly, they are all female, all the riders. So we take them on a city tour on those rickshaws. So there is this collaboration process where you can collaborate with someone else and be a part of this change. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to actually hire, female leaders or female guides yourself. Try and pursue these suppliers who are female, business owners and all that. You can collaborate with these different NGOs, the different organizations, and play a big part of it as a private sector or as a company, isn't it?
Also, it's not about pushing the agenda to make sure that we look like we're doing something about it. In certain cultures, the presence of female leadership or female presence in the manufacturing, for example, it's limited not because there's inequality in terms of gender representations, but also because culturally they retain a role that they embrace within their culture. You can't take them away from that, and they're happy to be represented in a specific way. So a lot of the gender equality talk is also kind of like being pushed a little bit across the tourism ecosystem. It's almost like, well, you don't have female leaders across your board of directors, then you are not doing the right thing. The question to me is not whether we have or not fair representations. The question to me is whether we give or not fair opportunities. Then let the other side decide whether they want to take on that challenge or not. Let the female counterpart or the male counterpart decide whether they want to be a tour guide or not. As long as there is a fair opportunity, then there can be a fair choice. If there is no opportunity, then we are hitting a wall. Obviously, we're as you said, we are working from the ground up instead of from top to bottom. If there is an opportunity to take on a new challenge, when challenge represents an opportunity to grow, not when challenge represents a negative situation that we need to solve. So when the word challenge does not resemble the word problem, but resembles the word opportunity, I think we're talking in a constructive way.
I think tourism has a unique pathway to empower. That's what I feel. Like, honestly, I feel that we are in a unique position to tackle this challenge, like you said. And, it's not about, only going about this like the buzzword, like you said, women empowerment, sustainability, this and that. It's not about that. It's also about, how can we create an environment where this particular problem or this particular solution can thrive. Like, we can actually put a solution and it can thrive. I think that's the reason why I believe tourism has a very, very unique, we are in a very unique position.
Tuan, the way we see equality, it's a bit broader than just gender-based. We look at the underemployment problems for people in the rural countryside, the ethnic minority, the LGBTQ community. I mean, I'm quite glad to say that within our company, I'm actually in the minority. I'm one of two straight men in the company. All the others are female or gay. Now, we haven't deliberately gone out to do this because, you mentioned briefly about, you've got to have a quota of so many positions, board positions. I mean, that's tokenism, which we again, this is one of those greenwashing buzzword thing. We have so many women in leadership positions. Are they, and you mentioned spot on, I mean, are they capable? I mean, are we deliberately putting people who are unable in positions that they're going to fail in? And it's terrible for these people. So better yet, just give the job to the people who are capable. And we don't really care. We don't worry too much about their sexual orientation or gender or whatever, rather than just having tokens that, hey, we're so proud that we're ticking a box on some agenda. I don't think it actually creates a fairer society by creating tokens. We should be addressing the issues rather than creating tokens.
Spot on. I love it. Absolutely. And I think all the things that you've shared across this conversation, they really showcase, it really stands for the values and the purpose that the collective has. Each one of your point of views sort of like aligns perfectly. And I'm so happy to see that it's not just about, putting companies together and creating a sort of membership, and then, you call yourself a collective, but it's actually through the mindset and through the point of view, the heart and the visions of each one of you, you came together and you built something so beautiful, so strong that people can, recognize themselves into and join you. And join the collective. So to this point, and as a last point of our chat today, how would you like to invite people that are listening to the podcast to get in touch, for example, and to learn more about the collective? What kind of people would you like to get in contact with?
This is Pravin. I think collective is growing, and the first thing is I think we like the other interested interested travel companies and agents to actually approach us in a way but they need to first reevaluate themselves. We will also, before joining in, we actually have a criteria for the global collective. Whoever wants to join, they have to actually need to qualify on certain things, and then only we actually see if they fit. To join, they're fit to join the collective. And then the next part is, if you are looking for a travel partner or an operating partner in different destinations, then we are here. We are very, very sustainable. We look into regenerative travel very, very seriously. So welcome all to approach us. Thank you very much, Dolores, for having us today.
So all the contact details of the Global Collective will be in the show notes. We leave an open invitation to those who are listening to the podcast to get in touch with the team and really open a conversation. I think everybody's very keen, and I personally thank you so much. I learned a lot during this conversation. Certainly not the last, and we'll be tapping more and more in the power of collective in the coming episodes of the podcast. At the meantime, I thank you for taking the time for joining me today, and all the best. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Truth Behind Travel podcast for this fantastic episode with Tuan, Çağlar, and Pravin. I'm leaving you with a lot of food for thought, and I encourage you to get in touch with the Global Collective for Travel if what you heard today spoke straight to your heart. Be well, and see you again next week.